Comic Book Savant, episode 333.
I know this. This I know. All that I have, all that is me, resides inside my poetry. And every time I write a rhyme, it might be the line that sets mine free. And also, I know that I don't...
Welcome to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This week, we're going back to one of our annual traditions, which is the comic book movie preview episode. It normally was just a summer comic movie preview episode. Excuse me. But since we have so many movies coming out, they're coming out more than just in the summer months, normally between, May and August. Now we have movies dropping in February now, March. So it's definitely more encompassing. So this episode will be a reflection of that. We'll talk about the few films that have already released up until this point, and everything coming between now and the year's end. But before we get into that, like always, I'd love to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. If you like this podcast and you want to find more shows related to comic books, please stop by the Comics Podcast Network. It's a great place to go. It's just a great hub where you can find multiple shows on comic-related material, be it based on a particular publisher, particular team, a particular character. It is so many different podcasts that you can find there. So it's a good one-stop shop is what I like to say, of finding comic book related podcasts. So if you have a moment, you like this content, you're starving for more, definitely check out the Comics Podcast Network over at comicspodcast.com. And also, before we go any further, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor for this and every episode, which is InStockTrades.com. Excuse me. One of the best places you can go on the internet when it comes to finding collected editions, omnibus, absolute editions, you name it. If it's a collected edition, you can find it over at InStockTrades.com. They have discounts from 35 to 42 to up to 50% off. They have their deals of the week featured on the homepage of the site that are updated weekly, which you say 50% off. If you're a U.S. customer and you place an order of $50 or more, you get free shipping within the U.S. Again, that's for U.S.-based customers. If you happen to be listening to the show and you're an international listener, you still get all the great savings with the discounts. You wouldn't get that if you hit that requirement of $50 order to get the free shipping, but they do have some of the most competitive and reasonable international shipping rates around, so you still get to save a ton of money. So if you have a moment, stop by InStockTrades.com. Let them know you heard about them here on the Comic Book Savant podcast. That only, helps me out more. We just finished a great contest with them, gave away a $25 gift certificate to a listener, Ryan King. So we'll be doing more promotions with them like that going forward. I want to definitely take advantage of that connection and try to give more back to you guys going forward. So definitely another contest, another giveaway of some sort will be coming up probably sometime during the summer, close to the 11-year celebration episode. I'll probably have something that I'll give away at that point in time, so be on the lookout for that most definitely. Now back to what this episode is, which is again is a summer see, I'm in the old mindset. It used to be the summer movie preview, but this is just a comic movie preview for 2017. We look at it so far, we've had Logan come out, and we've had Ghost in the Shell come out. I haven't done a review on Ghost in the Shell, and I went back and forth on this because I went to the movies this past weekend, and I was debating about should I go see Ghost in the Shell. It was still playing at my local theater, or see The Fate of the Furious, and my wife was down to see either one. She was curious about Ghost in the Shell, but we didn't go see it opening weekend, so she was kind of like, we can wait till it comes out on home video and watch it then. or go watch Fate of the Furious. And it was just one of those things where I always liked the original anime. I just wasn't taken or pulled in enough by anything that I saw in the previews to cover it, to do a review on it. So if I do review Ghost in the Shell, it might not be till it comes out on home video. As you guys know, I normally, buy my movies digitally through iTunes. It kind of bombed, so it should be coming out soon. Might be out before, midway through the summer or so forth. So, if you guys really want me to do a review on Ghost in the Shell, let me know in the comment section on the website or via Instagram or Twitter or what have you. Let me know. And if it's something you're clamoring for, a review that you just want to see me do or hear me do, I will do it. Otherwise, if you guys don't express the interest in it, it's one of those things. Well, I'll get to it where I get to it, because I don't want to do something haphazardly and I don't have the enthusiasm about it, and it shows in the content I put out. I'd rather just not do it, or do it when the interest hits me. So then you can, feel my enthusiasm or my energy towards doing it. I don't like force feeding you guys content or just doing it because it's the hot thing that's being talked about. So then I do it just for listens or for downloads. I'd rather do what I like to do it with that enthusiasm that you guys expect from me, and do it to the best of my ability, and rather do that and just do quality instead of just stuff that's like clickbaity or to get a lot of downloads. I'd rather it be just good content, period. So that's kind of where I felt with that. So again, this episode is changing the game a little, because normally I would do a summer comics preview, kind of talk about my thoughts about what movies were upcoming. Then at the end of the summer, when all the big movies would come out, I would do kind of a wrap up in a year in review of everything that was released and my thoughts, and kind of touch on predictions that I would make. Again, it's a little bit different now. We had 2 releases so far last month in March with Logan and Ghost in the Shell. I'm not going to talk about Logan in too much detail. I did a whole episode on that just a few episodes ago. It is Comic Book Savant episode 329, Movie Talk episode 329, Logan. So it was just not even 4 episodes ago. So you could definitely still listen to that, get my thoughts in detail of what I felt about the movie. Again, we're not going to talk about Ghost in the Shell at this point, because it's not something I'm going to review at this point in time. Financially, it didn't do well. It really tanked. I don't necessarily know why. I don't really go by other people's reviews. I wait to kind of watch the movie myself. But again, just from the trailers and the previews I saw, nothing grabbed my goat enough to be like, I gotta see this right away. It's one of those that I can wait to see. We're just, less than 3 weeks away. We have Guardians of the Galaxy that's coming out May 5th. We have Wonder Woman coming out June 2nd. We have Spider-Man Homecoming coming out July 7th. We have Kingsman, the Golden Circle. It was supposed to come out this summer. It got pushed to the end of September, so September 29th. Then we have Thor Ragnarok that comes out November 3rd. Then we have Justice League that comes out November 17th. And then last but not least, we have Star Wars The Last Jedi that comes out December 15th. So we're going to talk about all these movies. Pretty much at this point, I will also talk about my anticipation level for each movie. I'll do like I've kind of done in the past and kind of guesstimate what movies, how they will perform in the box office. So preferably on the opening weekend, and what movies that I'm most anticipated for and why. I also will talk about the trailers. All the movies on this list, except for Logan, because it's already been theatrically released at this point. I think it's coming out soon on home video at this point. I think I saw on iTunes you can already pre-order it, and it's supposed to be coming out sometime soon, like between probably this month or next month. So you actually be able to own that soon. which is crazy how quickly now these movies get turned over where you can, buy them from theatrical release to owning them at home. Is Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, it comes out May 5th, just a few weeks away from it. Movie that I'm stoked for. I enjoyed the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It was one of those kind of things where and going back and rewatching it, which is, it's kind of funny because my wife is she's not a comic book reader. She loves animation, so she'll watch the different cartoons. And right now she's going through this resurgence, so she's going back through all the Justice League Unlimited cartoons. Excuse me, because I own all of those on digital, bought through iTunes, and she is going back and like watching all of the Justice League Unlimited series, which I think is kind of cool. And she loves the movies, like, it's kind of what I do since I do this podcast. If a comics movie comes out, more than likely we're going to it, and it's just something from the very beginning of our relationship throughout. Like, she's just become more and more enamored with, more and more into. And Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, was hands down like her favorite superhero movie, and she watches it like crazy. She loves that movie. So it's like in our household, like, it's at the top of the list. Like, she cannot wait for it to come out. She's like, can we buy tickets already? Like, she's all about the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It was, for me, I liken this to how I felt about Suicide Squad. Going back, watching it after it came out on home video, after seeing it in the theater, is where I really love the characters in Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't care for the movie as much. The more I watched the movie, it was less about the movie and the story that was going on around it and more about the characters. I love the characters. What has me excited for this movie, I really feel like we're going to get the right story that fits, that will really show off all these characters more, and the little character bits and things that we've seen from all the marketing, the commercials, trailers, et cetera, et cetera. I'm really looking forward to it and thinking I'll get the movie to match the characters that I love so much, and it'll be a really solid movie experience altogether. Like, I'll get that perfect blend for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. That is my hope. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I watched the most recent trailer to do a trailer grade to just kind of gauge where I'm at with the movie. Right now, if I had to grade the most recent trailer that I could find, which I think is the final trailer at this point because the movie's a few weeks away from release, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. So I'm really feeling the direction of this movie from everything that I'm seeing so far. Excuse me, I'm on board fully. Love Groot, love Rocket, like the whole cast of characters. I'm really looking forward to it, and I don't feel like I will be let down. Like, Marvel has built up enough goodwill. James Gunn with the first movie and how he communicates through social media and just through interviews and the stuff that, you can really tell he's into these characters. It's kind of a question mark. Would he do a third movie, or would he step away and let someone else do it? Excuse me. I don't know what's going on with my throat this morning. I hope he stays around to complete the trilogy. I really do. I think he has his thumb on the pulse of these characters, and I think if that's how I feel at this point. I guess we have to wait till the movie's released to see how I feel about this movie. But I just feel like he's the reason for the success of the franchise. So I hope he sees the trilogy through, and then maybe if he steps away, because 3 movies is a lot in, like a 6-7 year period for any director, with the pressure and the things that goes around with a franchise of this magnitude at this point. I hope he stays on to finish his thought through a trilogy, because we're pretty much certain at this point they're going to get another movie. I think this movie's going to kill it, and I'll talk about this more towards the end when I start talking about box office predictions for the opening weekends of some of these movies and what I kind of think on it. Next, we have June 2nd. We have Wonder Woman coming out, directed by Patty Jenkins, known for Monster with Charlize Theron. She's a very, very renowned director. They nagged her, for this movie. They snagged her, not nabbed, snagged her for this movie, which kind of surprised me that they went. I say with this, Warner Brothers knew what they were doing on this and got a woman director, a very good, well-known, movie director. Everything I've seen of Wonder Woman, and we don't know much. We still really don't know much about the story, which I'm kind of glad about, because we saw the mistakes that were made in the past, especially in the marketing of Batman v Superman, where they gave the movie away towards the end with some of the final trailers revealing Doomsday, which that felt like they really shouldn't have. That kind of gave most of the movie away. They've really kept this one tight to the vest at this point. We know it's a period piece, kind of reminiscent of Captain America: The First Avenger. It doesn't bother me at all. I had a lot of issue with them choosing Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman and Diana Prince. I really enjoyed her and thought she kind of secretly stole the show in Batman v Superman. In the trailers, not just for this movie, but for Justice League as well, which I'm going to talk about later. Just her as Wonder Woman works. It works for me. She's very committed to the role and I've read my share of Wonder Woman comics. I'm not a diehard Wonder Woman fan from, the beginning of time. I read a lot of Greg Rucka's run on Wonder Woman in the early 2000s. Even his later run, I've read quite a bit of Brian Azzarello's run during the New 52. Even I've read a lot of stuff in the 2000s. So in the 2000s, I came into DC Comics the late 90s. Wonder Woman wasn't doing that great at the time. When Rucka got on, I started reading stuff like Queen and Country, and I was getting familiar with Greg Rucka's work, and I kind of just went snatching up everything he did, and he was currently doing Wonder Woman. I love the character, the take they did in the Bruce Timm-verse in the Justice League of Diana, Diana's character. So she's become, over the years, one of my, favorite characters in the DC universe. Definitely we go back to the Trinity. I just think from all the different takes, she's a good amalgamation of, all the different takes of the character. And I just think the moment that sold me that she got it, that she understood the character and the mindset of the character, was in Batman v Superman, and Doomsday just knocks the fool out of her, and she goes flying. She goes through debris, walls, and everything. And when she finally stops, she gets up and she has this smile on her face, and then she flies right back at him and start going in on Doomsday. I was like, that is Wonder Woman. She loves to fight. She's a warrior at heart. She's an Amazonian. It goes to the core of what her character is. And the way she sold that in that scene, I was like, they picked the right person. She understands it. And all the scenes that I'm seeing with her fighting and sliding, using her shield to slide, and her knee pads, it's like she gets it and she's committed. You can tell she's committed to that character. This is it wasn't like she's an international superstar. She has a name from, what it was two movies from the Fast and the Furious franchise. That's where we got to know her. She's did some other stuff that hasn't really blown up and knocked it out of the park. So this is really, her time to shine, to blow up as a force in Hollywood. And she's taking it full advantage of it, and I think that's what sold me. That one little scene, it's always a moment where things can turn for you personally, left or right, how you might feel about a certain thing. And then I was like, you know what, even though she wasn't my first choice of who I thought maybe could play this character, but she embodies the spirit of what the character is. I'm sold until she proves me wrong. I'm team, Gail all the way on Wonder Woman. And I think, secretly, she's the weapon that might right the ship for, DC and Warner Brothers when it comes to this, this DC expanded universe, cinematic universe thing that they're doing, is how well this movie does. And I think a lot is resting on her shoulders, and I think she can do it. We don't know what the status of Ben Affleck is going to be. Is Justice League going to be his last movie? It's so many rumors swirling around. He has a lot of personal stuff going on as well, with his divorce, him, putting himself into rehab, and he talked about all this stuff publicly. He's going through some tough times. So he's already stepped away from directing and writing the movie, the Batman movie that's supposed to be coming out in 2019. What is it? Matt Reeves from the Planet of the Apes movies is going to direct, and I think they're doing rewrites on it now. So, it looks like it'll be in production sometime next year with a 2019 release. We don't know if he's going to be Batman in that movie at this point. It's all kind of up in the air. I think she's committed. She kind of needs this to succeed, to really elevate her career. So she's all in. So I feel like if this movie holds up to the scrutiny, and it's been whisperings and things going around that people have seen test screenings of the movie, they've really liked it. I've heard nothing but positive buzz at this point. We still got a ways to go. We still are like about just under 2 months out, month and a half out, or so before it's released. So a lot can change in that time frame. I just have a good vibe about the movie from all the trailers they released on it. It just looks fun. It looks like a good time. And I gave the trailer a score of 9. I looked at the latest trailer, and I'm just all in. I'm all in on this movie. I think, and I try not to be, because of what I do in reviewing stuff for you guys, get too fanboyish, because I remember earlier on in the history of the podcast when things like Spider-Man and Thor, Spider-Man 3 came out, and I remember I did this long podcast, and I felt like I was overly critical, and I let my personal biases come in the way of properly reviewing something. And I think that's the trick to everything. When you're reviewing something for people, you can have your thoughts and opinions, but you can't let your personal biases cloud what you're reviewing, because it's not totally about my personal thoughts. That certain times, because if you have personal biases or you don't agree with something, you can't properly review it because you're already clouded. So I try not to go in too high, too low on anything before I review it. For the show, I go in, try to be even keel, but I gotta say I'm geeking out over this as a fan, but I'm trying to temper my expectations, because it's one of these things. If this movie's bad, it's one of those things where I would probably be crushed, because I'm so high on it at this point from everything that I'm seeing. So I'm trying to pull back from the hype train, and so going in, I could have, I'm not like, this is the best thing ever, because I feel like certain people, reviewers and stuff, they'll get so caught up in it and geeked up about a particular thing, and then they're all gung-ho on it when it comes out, and then people tend to turn like they do on the internet. Everything's high because all the good vibes are good when something, if they see it early, or if it, it comes out, and that first week or two, and then you start hearing everybody turn. So everybody else positive on it starts nitpicking away at it, and they got all these issues with it. So I try not to do that, try to be consistent throughout, but not, getting too caught up in the inevitable hype train and the critical train as it comes in and comes into the station and as it leaves the station, so I can be as even keel and as fair in reviewing things as possible. Next on the list is July 7th. We have Spider-Man Homecoming. It's directed by John Watts. This looks great. Tom Holland made a big splash in Captain America: Civil War. I went back, looked through all the trailers on this. It's a 10. It just looks like fun. It looks like, and I've been a diehard, and I've been like I was just saying, I've been overly critical of the Spider-Man movies previously because, I always read the old school Spider-Man comics, like the 60s comics. I had older cousins that were the ones that actually got me into reading comics. So I used to have their old beat up copies of the early, Spider-Man comics. And this is the first time in a movie I really think they've accurately portrayed those early years. You kind of, because it's, Spider-Man has been around for so long, you can capture different periods and different times. And I felt like the Raimi movies, was he tried to put in the high school element. They didn't linger on it long, and then some of the college and then early life. You really got that was more late 70s to early mid 80s flavor of where Spider-Man was, in that point in time. And these movies came out in very, they went into production, late 90s, early 2000s, or at least very early 2000s. So I guess it was appropriate at that time. At this point, they just they had to strip away. They had the Raimi franchise and went back into the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. First movie was okay. Second movie had good parts, and just became, due to studio interference, a jumbled mess. So I felt like they did have to really clean the slate and reboot, and I like the way that they're going back to the kind of the core of what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, and scaling it back, going with a young actor like Tom Holland that could really they could do with Homecoming, him in high school. They could do a couple of movies or maybe a trilogy of him being in high school. Then, as Tom Holland ages up, that the audience ages up with him, and then you can go into him in college even, or being a young adult in the big city, and play that out and elevate it a little bit more. He could be the linchpin going into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's it's already some things going around on maybe Homecoming and whatever the sequel may be will be the only two collaborative movies between Sony and Marvel Studios, and then they might break off. Sony, when announcing a whole bunch of spin-off movies with other Spider Universe characters, because they do own the rights to them. So, I think after the receipts of this movie come in, they might stick on the gravy train with Marvel Studios and keep that collaboration going, because if Sony was just doing this movie on their own, no one would be interested in it at this point, seeing what they did and how they kind of hurt the franchise with their interference in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't think anyone would be trying to go to the theater at all if Marvel Studios wasn't attached to this film. I think it has everything to do with the buzz surrounding the movie at this point, in all honesty. So I hope they don't screw the pooch on this, and they see the potential on it. I think Tom Holland is going to be a good, if they keep the collaboration going, he could be a linchpin for both studios and be really that marquee franchise that Sony really needs at this point when it comes to their film studio. So I hope they keep it together and they don't get greedy and feel like, oh, now we're successful again and we've used Marvel Studios. Haha, we're going to go do these horrible movies, because they've proven when they try to push all this crap out the door and try to sometimes, I talk about this all the time with my wife, is that sometimes quality is better than quantity. And if they just stick with putting out quality product, they'll do good. But sometimes it seems like Sony gets greedy and they're just trying to get, the more we put out there, the more money we could potentially make. And no, that's not the case, because if you're throwing this crap up against the wall, seeing if it'll stick, you know what happens? That when it doesn't stick, it rolls down to the floor because it's garbage. So, Sony, think about it. Chill. Make your money. put out quality product and just chill. Don't put the cart before the horse. Anyway, so how I feel about the trailer, to me, it's a 10 out of 10. I'm really feeling this. It just seems like it has the essence of what I've wanted in a Spider-Man movie for the longest time. They finally nailed it. We're going to have a whole movie, not just like a 5-minute or 10-minute little segment of a movie, but a whole movie of, you know, Peter and his essence, you know, and those relationships that were established in his high school years, you know, reverberated through the rest of his life as we saw the comics progress with you know, Flash Thompson and, you know, Liz Bryant, Betty Bryant, you know, all these characters. These became Ned Leeds. These are, you know, substantial characters that floated in and out of Peter Parker's life throughout, you know, what we've seen. So I you know, I definitely would love to have a movie or two even of him in high school. Yeah. So, but it remains to be seen. I'm really feeling good about it. Again, I'm a little bit more even on this, but I'm not so fanboyish how I am with Wonder Woman. I'm kind of cool because Sony's still involved, so it has a room where something can be screwy with it. But with Marvel I'm kind of like, I think it's going to be a solid movie all the way around, and it just looks fun. And that's what I like to now, because sometimes we skew, we have to be super dark and super serious. This goes back to kind of fun, and it's true to the character. So now we're getting a little bit more balance with what we're seeing with Wonder Woman, with Spider-Man. It's less about being dark and edgy, because dark and edgy is a thing. Everything doesn't have to be rated R because Deadpool and Logan did, and they were successful. It's like, it captures what the core of the character is. It's about character. That's what I like when I see the trailers for even for Guardians as well. We established those characters in the first movie. We know who they are. Everything that we've seen so far, we still have no clue, and it's less than a month away, to have any idea what the heck the story is in Guardians. We just know we get more of the characters we like, and we see them doing the things that made us love them in the first place. That's kind of all you need when you're wanting to go see a movie. It's entertainment, so you want to be entertained. So that's what the core of it is about. Then you just got to deliver on having a halfway, decent story and, great action and all the trimmings that go with it. But at the core, it's always about the characters themselves. Make us love them, make us care about what's going to happen to them, good or bad. Next movie is Kingsman: The Golden Circle. It's the sequel to Kingsman: The Secret Service, which was a movie that I loved, that I thought it was a very underrated movie. It just got overshadowed by bigger releases when that summer it came out. Again, it was supposed to come out, I think, in July. It got pushed back to the end of September 29th. We haven't seen anything yet, which kind of has me a little concerned because they pushed it back. By this point, with all the other movies that I'm talking about on this episode, we have a trailer release. We've seen, even with Star Wars Celebration was this past weekend. We got the first teaser trailer of that dropped even. And this comes out in September, which is still not that far away. And we haven't had a teaser trailer or anything dropped. So it's bad when we talk about the movies from November. The past week we had Star Wars, Thor Ragnarok, and, have trailers dropped for them. And still, a movie that comes out in September, we have nothing. We haven't seen anything except for movie poster reveal a couple of weeks ago. It's a big cast. We have Chaden Tanning, Jeff Bridges, Julianne Moore, Mark Strong, Halle Berry. So they got some star power, and so it's kind of just disconcerting at this point. We haven't seen a trailer. I trust in it. Matthew Vaughn really nailed it with the first movie. I love Taron Egerton as Eggsy, so I want to see more. I really like Mark Strong in this movie as in the first movie as Merlin as well. So I'm really curious to see what the story is, what it's going to look like. I think it was a sleeper hit last time. I think it'll be a little bit more mainstream hit. When I kind of think about this movie, I think about John Wick. The first one was moderate. It had a lower budget. It didn't have the big budget like some of the other movies we talked about on this list. but I think it has a following to it. I think this movie will do considerably better than the first movie. Not that it was a success, hence we got a sequel. I think it's going to do even better. Will it do the money that these other bigger movies will do? No. But it will make a substantial increase more than what the first movie did. I kind of feel that way, for sure. Again, no trailer, so can't really, grade something that we don't have yet. And again, that's my only lingering concern in looking into this whole situation, is that I'm kind of anxious to see something about the movie outside of a movie poster, with a release, 5 months away, but for movies that's even further away, we already have trailers for at this point. It just, again, kind of has me, gives me some anxiety when it comes to it, because I want it to be successful. So hopefully we get some trailer at some point, sometime soon in regards to it, and watch, because I'm asking for it like in the next week before I put out the next episode. Maybe they'll just boom, drop a trailer. Next on the list is Thor Ragnarok. We have the release date of November 3rd, directed by Taika Waititi. We just had the first trailer drop for this. Teaser trailer dropped last week. I think last Monday, matter of fact. Looks awesome. I don't know what else to say about this movie. My hopes are, and it looks like at this point, they're putting some fun back in it. They're amping up the color palette. Some people, I've heard a lot of things, I've seen a lot of things on the internet where people say they feel like the trailer was kind of aping Guardians in a way, from like kind of the music selection, the color palette. I was going over everything yesterday, and I was rewatching all the trailers, and I watched them a few times, and the trailer definitely has a Guardians of the Galaxy aesthetic to it, I have to say. I don't know if that helps or hurt the movie. I love the Thor character, and I always have loved the Thor character. I'm a kid of the 80s. I love Walt Simonson. Walt Simonson, if you've listened to any of my previous episodes of writers and artists, all-time favorite, he's like a god for me when it comes to comics, as far as an artist as well as a writer. I loved his 80s run on Thor. When Ragnarok and all this, kind of where a lot of this stuff is inspired by some of this storyline that they're kind of covering within this movie, is kind of built off of, I don't, it's true to the comic. It's true to the comic in that way. So I do feel like visually certain aspects are kind of being aped from Guardians, because it worked for Guardians, and other Thor movies haven't been awesome. Though I love the character, I love Chris Hemsworth as Thor, we all can admit that Tom Hiddleston it feels more like this has been his franchise more than Chris Hemsworth, because he's really the breakout star of the two Thor movies. Plus he's been in in Avengers. Loki's been around, and he's been a substantial character at this point, and it kind of feels like it was more his vessel than a vessel for Chris Hemsworth, which is the lead character in the movie. I think from this first trailer, with only seeing one trailer, I gave the trailer grade a 9 out of 10. I feel like for the first time, from what we're seeing in this trailer, it is actually a Thor-centric movie. Chris Hemsworth is a good actor. He's a great actor. And we've seen in his breaks in between the Thor movies, he's done a lot of other stuff, some serious stuff. He's done some action. He's done some comedy, and he's really good at comedy. So them bumping up the comedy a little bit more in this only helps, because it gets to show off and showcase more of his skills as an actor. So I'm looking really forward to it. I think that the costume designs and everything are really nailed. Like, I'm loving it. And Hela, oh my gosh, I'm loving Kate Blanchett as Hela, and the one scene where they show her in the full-on original Kirby antler head garb thing. That is all, man. it looks awesome. Visually, it looks stunning. I really felt like in this movie, with them amping up the colors, like you can really see the detail they've put in the costume design. Where the other movies, they were so dark that you couldn't see all the great work they put into it. So I really feel like they need to amp up the color to showcase all the vibrantness and all the tailor, the craftsmanship of the costume designs, because they're integral when it comes to, like, you're dealing with gods. They have these unique garb in the world. You can't mute it down, and I felt like that's been one of the things that has hurt the franchise, is that everything was so muted and you didn't showcase the vibrancy of the colors, even the darn Rainbow Bridge. So it looks good. It looks like it's really going to be good. I take pause because I like the Thor. I like the first Thor movie. The second one I wasn't crazy about. Again, just do a search on the website, Thor. You should see the movie reviews. I forgot to look up the exact episode numbers for those, because it's been a while since the last Thor movie came out. And but again, I'm looking forward to it. It looks fun. It looks funny, and it looks like it has some good action. And I'm getting what I finally wanted. I want a Thor-centric movie and out of a Thor movie, because I felt like the last movie was more about Jane Foster and Loki than it was Thor. I felt like the first movie was about Thor, but it had a small budget. Marvel Studios were just starting, so it wasn't the tour de force that it should have been, but it was a solid movie. I feel like Thor: The Dark World was a little of a step back, marginally, but I really feel like they really need to go out on a strong note for the trilogy, because I think as far as the trilogies or overall franchises, honestly, Thor is the weakest of the core Marvel Studio, film franchises they have. I feel like Thor is the weakest. So they really need this one to really go out and kill it in the box office and in the movie theater. And it looked like they got Taika Waititi on board, and he knows what he's doing, and it looks promising. I have to say, it's the most promising movie since the first, as far as just going off the trailer and going into how I feel about the movie. I feel really upbeat and positive about it, which I never got a good feeling about Thor: The Dark World, and it kind of delivered on the expectations it kind of set. And it was, nothing special. Next, we have Justice League. Comes out November 17th, directed by Zack Snyder. I love the trailer for this. I gave it an 8.5. Reason why I gave it an 8.5 is, simply put, it is Warner Brothers Studio, and it seems like the Warner Brothers as a tour de force when it comes to a film studio. It just seems like they're meddling way too much in these DC expanded universe movies at this point, and they're doing more harm than good. You felt it with Suicide Squad. You saw it when you saw the theatrical cut for Batman v Superman. Then you watched the director's cut or Ultimate Edition when it came out on home video. You saw it with your own eyes that they meddled too much and ruined a solid movie and made it just a decent movie by all the edits and things they did. It looks really good. Another reason why I kind of knock it down is that I'm not sold on all the special effects. For some reason, just the way, I don't like Flash's outfit. When I was rewatching the trailer yesterday, it was a little bit better, and the Flash run effects look really sweet. I still don't like Cyborg. I still don't like the way Cyborg looks. I feel like they opted for a little bit too much CGI on his body, and he looks like a Transformer. He doesn't look like Cyborg. I love Ray Fisher. Ray Fisher has a good vibe and a good look for what I would envision Victor Stone to be, but he doesn't look like Cyborg. They're making too much of his body that CGI, and that CGI just is not clicking for me, and I hope they fix that in some way, but it just bothers me, because if you're going to put him on there And, you know, when they announced it, we don't know because we haven't heard anything else. He's supposed to get a standalone movie at some point. They got to get that character right because it's distracting to me because it just throws me off because it's so far off. Even if they did some variation, it's like it's too much CGI and not enough him. If you see Cyborg from the comics, it's, you know, it's a better kind of blend. You know, and this guy's built. He's a nice looking, nice built guy. And it's like, he's like Ray, like he's supposed to be this athlete. And it's like, but you only see that little part of his face and the rest is CGI. And it doesn't look like it's him. Like it is not proportion. It doesn't look properly proportionate to his body. And the few scenes we see, like when he's in a Letterman jacket, he's a big kind of guy. And that's how Cyborg was. Like his cybernetics were still, you know, melded with his body, and it doesn't look it. He looks deformed because he kind of has a big muscular face, and then it's like everything else is like little stilty, puppety CGI, and it takes me. It's the one thing that whenever I see him on screen, it just takes me out of the character, and takes me out of the illusion of the movie. You know, the suspension of disbelief is broken at that point. So then, you know, I'm starting to notice more stuff instead of enjoying the movie. So with that, it gives me slight pause with it, just for that reason. And I hope they fix that in post before the movie comes out in November. Still plenty of time, but from this first trailer and the other trailer they did, the teaser kind of thing they did that released from Comic-Con during last summer, they need to tighten him up. That's the one glaring thing that I can say. Everything else looks good. Please, Warner Brothers, tighten up the Cyborg CGI. Is bothering me. Could you fix it, please? Last but not least is Star Wars The Last Jedi, going to be released December 15th. Rian Johnson is directing the movie. I don't know much about Rian Johnson's history outside of I liked Looper. I watched Looper, liked it. So I'm interested to see where it was going. We just had the trailer drop Friday. Yeah. And I like what I saw, but it's truly a teaser in that level. It was the length of like a regular trailer, but it gave just what a teaser trailer would kind of give you, even though it's longer runtime. I'm curious. That's all I can say at this point. I felt like once I stepped back from The Force Awakens and the happiness of Star Wars just coming back out and being back out and having someone like J.J. Abrams behind it, it was an okay movie. It follows the pattern of characters I loved, not the best story. The story felt too much of a homage or love letter to A New Hope, which was a problem. This definitely looks different. This definitely looks darker. The effects, the camera work looks stunning. That's the thing I felt like really reached out and grabbed me, was the camera work. You could tell that Rian Johnson is going to do his own thing, and I hope so. And it feels like just from the teaser trailer, it's going to be more emphasis on these characters and where they're at now and what they're going through. I felt like that part was amped up a lot, and how certain shots were set up that we saw briefly as the trailer played. That is more, you're getting more of that these characters are going through something. They changed from when we met them in Force Awakens to where they are now. They've been through some things. Some things have changed. We've seen Finn in the back, if I could say it right, back a tank. You know, you see Rey going through her training. You're seeing Leia looking at the star map. You're seeing, you know, Poe, running around in the base and it's being attacked. You're seeing, so there's like, everything's not hunky dory for our heroes at this point. You hear Luke, he's narrating the trailer. So it's a lot going on. I gave the trailer score 8. It's the first trailer. Normally the second and third are better because we start getting more meat of it. We didn't see Snoke at all. We just saw one brief shot of Kylo Ren. So I'm curious about it, but I've learned to temper my expectations. Force Awakens was a solid movie. I wanted JJ to do maybe something a little bit more like he did with the first Star Trek movie, where it paid homage to what came before, but then he still did his own thing and did a good marriage or blending of the two. But it ended up being just how I feel, more like a retread of A New Hope, to a point where it just, I didn't get what I wanted from the movie, but I love the characters. I love the introduction of the characters, and it was a fun movie. I think where it ranks for me has kind of fallen at this point. So I'm really looking forward for this to being something different. But at this point, I have this wait and see kind of attitude for it, for sure. At this point, I'm optimistic, but you got to prove it to me now, because I liked Rogue One as well, but it didn't knock my socks off. So I'm waiting for that Star Wars movie out of this new era we have under the Disney banner to knock my socks off. I think this movie has potential. It's still early, so we just got the first teaser trailer. It's not coming out till December, so we have a ways to go. But I feel that it could be that movie I want, that kind of Empire Strikes Back quality kind of movie, to be like, oh, now they've changed the game type feel to it. So time will tell. So to kind of wrap this up, because this episode has been a long one, but it was so much I wanted to go over. The ranking, as far as my most anticipated, my least anticipated off of this list would be Kingsman: The Golden Circle, because we haven't seen anything yet, so I don't know quite how I feel, because I don't know what we got. Next is Thor Ragnarok. Again, it's a wait and see type attitude. Same thing with Justice League. Star Wars: The Last Jedi, I just, stated how I felt about it. Then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and then my most anticipated movie is Wonder Woman, because like I said, I'm geeking on that at this point, and I just feel like it needs to be a success. If anything else in the DC expanded universe, cinematic universe, is going to work, this movie has to be good. I feel in my bones that it is going to be good, and I hope I'm not disappointed. But it's the one I'm most anticipated for, because I want DC to have a good, I want them to be out there and be competitive, because it'll keep Marvel and all the other companies on their game when it comes to doing these film adaptations. So, I want them to succeed, and I feel like this will be the first step in getting the financial success and the critical success, because the movies haven't failed. The DC movies haven't failed. They didn't make them Marvel money, that, but they were successful. When you look at the money that these movies made, they didn't flop. They just didn't make like $1 billion like they wanted to kind of be like, hey, Marvel, we're here. And I don't think Wonder Woman will be that movie either. I don't think it's going to make $1 billion. But I think if it's successful, that people are going to be more amped about Justice League, and maybe Justice League might be a movie, if it doesn't hit $1 billion, it might hit close. But they need Wonder Woman. If Wonder Woman tanks, and it's more kind of, it's a semi-financial success, but still critical success, critical success is not there, then I think Justice League might be like a $500 million movie next to maybe a 900 knocking at the door at $1 billion movie. So I think a lot is riding on the success of Wonder Woman, and they can't mess up the marketing for Wonder Woman when it starts ramping up in the next couple of weeks. Because you would have to imagine, if it's coming out June 2nd, you're going to have to start ramping up advertising by the end of April, as soon as or right after Galaxy is released in theaters, you hit it hard that next month. But they have to do that properly to get people whipped up in a frenzy for Wonder Woman. As far as the box office rankings, here's how I'm ranking them right now. I feel like Kingsman, I looked up on Box Office Mojo, which is one of the most popular kind of sites when it comes to box office predictions and forecasting and all that kind of stuff. So I think the Kingsman Golden Circle, the first movie had like a $30 million opening weekend. I feel like it'll at least double that. I kind of feel like looking at the success of John Wick 1 to John Wick 2, I kind of feel like it'll do that around that. So I feel like opening weekend, it'll make about $65 million, but the potential to make more depending what is up against that weekend. And I didn't go that deep into it to see what is set, what other movies that are non-comic book movies or what have you would be coming out that same weekend. But I feel like from a 30 to a 65, I think that's where it could do. And I feel like the movie I compare it most to is that John Wick success, how it compared from John Wick 1 to 2 is right in that ballpark. So I think that's a solid prediction for opening weekend for a movie franchise that size. Thor Ragnarok, I estimate that it'll do about 105 million opening weekend. And I just based it off of looking at the franchise. They increase each release. I think with the hype around it, this is a large enough increase because I think the last one was like around 85 million, 84, 85 million. I feel like with the cast they have behind it, the response that everyone's giving to this first trailer, 85 to 105, 107 million opening weekend. That's good, and that's what this franchise needs at this point. It might even exceed that. Again, we're still quite a ways off, but just from where I'm at now, this is just a very, very, very rough prediction on that. Now, what do we have? Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, this one was tougher because I kind of had to look across all the movies that are in the DC expanded universe kind of realm that's kind of came out. I even looked back at Man of Steel, Suicide Squad, Batman v Superman, and kind of projected based on how those movies did. I guess the best outlier to kind of do a prediction off of would probably be like the Man of Steel, which I think did like 116. Had a 116 million opening. I'm going to say Wonder Woman will do around 110 million opening weekend. Hopefully more. I'm hoping more, but keeping these realistic and kind of on the safe side of predicting, I feel like it can easily do 110. For me on the box office ranking is Justice League. I feel like opening weekend it can do around 160 million. Just looking at when the time of year is coming out, again based on numbers like on Batman v Superman as the base, because that's their as far as opening weekend, I think it had the biggest of these movies in the DC expanded cinematic universe at this point. But I think overall, I think Suicide Squad made more money, edged it out by a little bit, if I remember correctly. But as far as opening, I looked at it. I think Batman v Superman had 166 million. So I felt like Justice League 160 is a fair opening weekend to have. Next is Spider-Man: Homecoming. Again, I used all the other Spider-Man movies in their opening weekends to kind of gauge it with the boost of the Marvel Studios connection. I feel like 165 million is what they might get for the opening weekend. Plus, in July, right smack dab in the middle of the summer, those movies normally perform reasonably well. 165 million is a good estimate. Potentially could be more, but I think that's a fair estimate. Guardians opening up in a couple of weeks. I talked about this on a previous episode, just how ravenous the fans were that when that first trailer dropped and seeing it at the movie theater and just seeing how everybody went bananas over it. I feel like this one's poised to do way better than the original by a lot. This is going to be, I feel like this movie's going to be a juggernaut. So I'm predicting 170 million opening weekend. I believe it can achieve, on the low end, maybe 150, but I feel that this is about to blow, like it did just shy of 100 million last time. So I'm looking forward to pretty much coming close to doubling what the first movie did, because it has just become a part of Groot, Rocket. They just did something phenomenal with the first movie. And I think this is, like I said, it's poised to blow up like, trust me, I feel it. I feel it. You can talk about me later if I got all these numbers wrong. This is not, I'm not a professional at this. I'm trying to do this for entertainment. And then if I'm right, I'm going to gloat about it, when these movies come out and be like, I called it. I told y'all I know a little something about movies. Comic book movies anyway. Anyway, and then last but not least, Star Wars The Last Jedi. I don't know if it's going to do 130 or 40 like Force Awakens did, because people were hungry for Star Wars to arrive back on the scene. It has. Rogue One came out. It did moderate. I think because this is a direct sequel, it has a potential to might hit 200 million. It's not going to do 230. I don't think it's going to do 230 at all. I think it can. I'm going to go on the air on the lower side and say 190. It's coming out during the Christmas season, so 200 is a possibility. I'm going to go on the safe side and go on the lower end and say 190. If it does 200 or slightly over 200, I won't be surprised. But I feel like it's going to come just a little bit short of hitting what Force Awakens did. Just based on, you might have lost some people. Some people were confused by the whole Rogue One thing. A lot of people thought that are not diehard Star Wars fans thought that might have been a sequel and was confused by all of that. I think that confusion might hurt the box office a little bit, and it'll still be successful. You can't sneeze at 190 million opening, but that's kind of where I feel like on the low end. But I feel like it can range from 190 to maybe 210. But I don't think it could hit that 230, 240 range. I just don't see it right now. But 190 is a safe prediction for me. So that's where I'm at with the 2017 comic movie preview. At the end of the year, year's end, we'll go back and do a 2017 comic movie review where we look at everything that came out, even probably at that point Ghost in the Shell. I know Valerian is based on like some French comics, so my wife of all people brought it to my attention when we were watching Fast and the Furious. They showed the trailer for Valerian. And she was like, are you going to cover that on the show? And I was like, I don't know at this point, because it really did nothing that I've seen in that movie, and I've seen 2 trailers, has jumped at me to be like, I have to review this for the show. So it remains to be seen. Something might change before the movie comes out this summer. And, so I'll talk about it at some point, probably in a year-end review, because it is based on a French graphic novel series. So that is a comic book. In some shape, form, or fashion. So we will wait and see on that whole thing. So that's all I got for you guys. So as always, check out the website, comicbooksavant.com, on Twitter at comicbooksavant, on Instagram at comicbooksavant as well. Definitely check out the website. It's a good resource. I, not too long ago, put a search box on there. So if you want to quickly find stuff, because again, with this episode release, it's 333 episodes, which is kind of a crazy thing to say with a single person podcast like this, that I have that much content. So if you want to look up a character, to see if I've done episodes on them before, that search box is there. I've tested it out. It's really, really good. So you should be able to find anything if you're curious about what I've done, something you don't want to go scroll through and page through the whole site. It's really quick and it's really well indexed, and you can find anything that I've covered previously. So definitely go check out the site. Like I said, if you're newer to the podcast and you haven't heard all the episodes, go back. There's a lot of good content there. So just use that search feature, search out whatever character, whatever story, whatever movie. If it's a comic book movie and it's been released in the past 10 years, more than likely I have reviewed it on this site, and you can type it in, you can pull that up. So again, that's all I have for you guys this week. Thanks to the sponsor, as always, over at In Stock Trades. If you do hit them up, let them know that you heard about them here on Comic Book Savant. I appreciate all your support. I love all the shout outs I've been getting and the thumbs up for the Facebook page, which is the Facebook page is facebook.com/Comic Book Savant. I'm getting mad love from you guys and getting likes and even getting a few comments. Don't be afraid to comment. If it's on the website, you can comment. I'm being really active on Instagram. Hit me up on Instagram, or go to the Facebook page. If you want to leave a comment or suggestions or just any feedback, do that. I want this to be a collaborative process between all of us. You know, I'm only as good as you guys help me to be. You know, I always try to take feedback, take it in stride, and try to build off of that going forward with improving the content that I'm putting out there. So I thank you for your support. Keep supporting the show, spreading it word of mouth. It helps a ton. If you have a moment, because I haven't gotten a review on iTunes in forever. So somebody go over to iTunes and leave me a review. Not just one. Well, if you're one person, leave one review. But I know it's more than one person that listens to the show. So if you're listening to the show, stop over to iTunes, give me a review, and I will read them on the air. You know, whenever I get them, I'll share them with you guys. So I keep an eye on, and I'll check every so often. So yeah, take a moment, please. It definitely helps to spread the word. Those little things like that you do go a long way in helping expand the listenership out for the show. So if you can take a moment and do that, if you haven't already done it in your time listening to the show, please, I implore you to stop by iTunes and do it, because it helps the show grow over there on iTunes and get more eyes on the show. So I would really appreciate that. But again, that's all I have for you guys this week for Comic Book Savant. I will see you guys next week with another episode. Take care.
And into lyrical wholeness. And I know this, and I know this. This I know, this I know.